The quiet man in the lobby, the hotel lobby, was glowing under golden lights, full of voices, laughter, and the soft clinking of glasses. It was the kind of place where people came not just to rest, but to be seen. Designers, influencers, business, leaders, all moving in and out, dressed in style, speaking loudly to get attention. But one man sat quietly near the corner, barely noticed. He wore a simple black jacket, jeans, and a soft beanie that covered his long hair. He didn't speak. He didn't demand anything. He just waited. The bellboys ignored him. One even whispered. To another, probably someone trying to sneak in for warmth. They laughed and walked away. The receptionist looked at him once, then turned her eyes to the guests with luxury bags and shining watches. The man remained silent. His eyes wandered to the chandelier above, then down to a child chasing a balloon across the floor. A small smile touched his lips. He looked tired, as if carrying 1,000 stories behind that soft expression. A young couple, loud and full of energy, walked past him. The woman glanced at him and whispered, "He looks like a homeless version of Keanu." Reeves. Her voice wasn't low enough. The man heard it. So did the actual Keanu Reeves sitting right there. But he didn't react. Instead, he reached into his pocket, pulled out a small card and looked at it. Then he gently placed it back and folded his hands. A worker from housekeeping, older and gentle, noticed him. She slowly approached and said softly, "Sir, are you waiting for someone?" Keanu nodded once. "Would you like a glass of water?" she asked. He looked at her. His eyes, so calm yet deep, held hers for a second. Then he smiled. "Thank you. I'd appreciate that." She returned with a glass of water and offered it with both hands, bowing slightly. He took it with care, drank. A few sips and then bowed his head in return. There were no cameras, no phones. Just a moment of kindness, shared quietly in a loud world. But it wasn't always like this for him. Just 3 hours earlier, Keanu had arrived in the city. He came alone, without assistants or bodyguards. His plan was simple: check into the hotel, rest for a night, and then attend a charity event for orphaned children the next day. No red carpet, no media buzz. He liked to do things that way, quietly, humbly. But when he walked into the hotel lobby, he realized something was wrong. His reservation wasn't showing in the system. The receptionist, a young man with perfectly slicked hair, raised his eyebrow. "Sir, do you have a confirmation email?" he asked with a cold tone. Keanu nodded and handed over his phone. The receptionist scrolled, frowned, then said, "This booking seems to have been canceled. Maybe there was an error." Keanu said gently, "I didn't cancel anything." "Well, I'm sorry, sir," the man said, already turning to the next guest. "We are fully booked tonight. You can try another hotel down the street." The words were final. A woman behind Keanu tapped her heel impatiently. "Some of us have real reservations," she said loudly, looking at him with annoyance. Keanu stepped aside, nodded, and sat in the corner where he had been waiting now for almost an hour. He could have pulled strings. He could have called someone. He could have revealed who he was. But he didn't. He waited. Meanwhile, the young couple from before were checking in. The woman still giggled about what she said earlier. "Seriously, it's like a movie. Man walks into hotel, gets mistaken for a poor guy, turns out to be a star." Her partner laughed and added, "Yeah, right. That guy's probably just looking for a warm place to sit." The receptionist joined the laughter. Keanu just listened. He didn't let anger in. He didn't even feel pain. What he felt was a sense of sadness for how quick people were to judge. Not knowing, not caring, just assuming. He looked at the worker who had brought him water. Her uniform was faded, her shoes old. But her eyes were kind. She came back again, this time with a small wrapped sandwich from the staff lounge. "I thought you might be hungry," she said, setting it down near him and walking away before he could refuse. He stared at the sandwich. Then, with a quiet whisper, he said, "Thank you." Just then, the hotel manager entered the lobby. A tall man in his 50s with silver hair and a proud posture. He walked to the receptionist, glanced across the room, then stopped. His eyes fell on Keanu. His face froze. He leaned in and whispered, "Do you know who that is?" The receptionist shrugged. The manager's face turned pale. "That's Keanu Reeves." Suddenly, the receptionist stood straighter. He looked around nervously. The couple stopped talking. The room's energy shifted. The manager rushed toward Keanu. "Sir, Mr. Reeves, please forgive us. There has been a terrible mistake. I had no idea." Keanu stood up slowly, raised his hand gently, and said, "It's okay. Please, let me fix this. We have a presidential suite available, just vacated. Let me take you there personally." Keanu looked at the old worker who had helped him. She stood quietly, folding towels at the corner, trying not to make eye contact. He turned back to the manager. "Actually," he said softly, "can I ask you something?" "Of course, sir." Keanu pulled out a card, the same one he'd looked at earlier. It was his original reservation. He handed it to the manager. Then he reached into his coat pocket and took out a silver key card, one meant only for the suite. He handed both to the manager and said, "Please give this to her." The manager blinked. "Sir?" "The woman over there. She gave me water and food, no questions, no judgment." The room went silent. "Give her my suite for the night," Keanu said. "I'll find somewhere else." Before anyone could respond, he walked past them quietly, with a small smile, and stepped out into the cool evening air. He didn't look back. The young couple stood frozen. The receptionist stared in shame. And the worker, she began to cry, softly, holding the keycard in her hand like it was made of gold. And that was just the beginning. Whispers. Behind closed doors, the night air outside the hotel was cool and gentle, brushing softly against Keanu's face as he stepped onto the sidewalk. The city lights blinked like stars fallen to earth. Taxis passed. Strangers walked by, unaware of who just passed them, but Keanu didn't care for attention. He walked slowly, calmly, his breath rising in quiet clouds. Inside the hotel, everything had changed. The worker, her name tag reading Nirmala, still stood frozen near the front desk. She looked down at the key card in her wrinkled hand, unsure if it was real. The manager stood beside her, trying to explain. He really meant it. "Mr. Reeves gave you the suite for the night. Please accept it." "But I can't," she whispered. "I clean those rooms. I've never even stepped inside one." "Then maybe it's time you did," the manager said, his tone more respectful now. "He noticed your kindness, and he wanted you to rest, like a guest." Tears filled her eyes. Slowly, with shaking hands, she followed the manager to the elevator. As the doors closed, the young couple who had mocked Keanu earlier watched in silence. They didn't laugh now. They didn't even speak. "We misjudged him," the woman finally said. "We misjudged ourselves," her partner replied. Meanwhile, Keanu kept walking. He turned a corner and entered a small cafe still open with only 2 tables occupied. He walked up to the counter and asked, "Do you have something warm? Maybe soup?" The girl behind the counter looked up, her mouth slightly open. "Are you—" He gave a gentle smile. "Just hungry." "Yes, of course. Please, take a seat. I'll bring it to you." Keanu sat near the window, watching the city outside. He didn't want to think too much. He didn't want to feel bitter about what happened. Instead, he remembered Nirmala's eyes when she offered water. He remembered the sandwich she brought without expecting anything in return. He remembered what it meant to be human. His soup arrived, and the girl placed a napkin beside it with trembling hands. "On the house," she whispered. He looked at her. "You shouldn't—" "Please," she said quickly. "It's an honor." He gave a quiet thank you and began eating. It was warm, simple, but full of care, just like the moments he treasured most in life. But even as he sat peacefully, the story inside the hotel was growing fast. Staff whispered about what happened. Videos were shared. One bellboy had filmed the moment Keanu gave his sweet key to Nirmala. By morning, it would be online. Millions would see it. But for now, it spread through whispers, soft, respectful ones. In the suite, Nirmala stood in the doorway, too scared to enter. The room was twice the size of her home. Gold trim, fresh flowers, a view of the city skyline. She stepped inside slowly, touching nothing, afraid it would disappear. A gift from a stranger. No, not just a stranger. A man the world loved, but whom she had treated simply as a human being. She walked to the window, sat on the edge of the bed, and wept. Not for the luxury, but for being seen, for being respected. In her long life of cleaning. After others, never had anyone offered her the chance to rest in a room like this. Meanwhile, back in the cafe, Keanu finished his soup and stood to leave. As he paid, the girl behind the counter said softly, "Can I ask you something?" He nodded. "Why?" "Did you give her your sweet? You could have asked for a bigger one." Or stayed. Keanu took a second to think, then said, "Sometimes a bed means more to someone else than it does to me. And her kindness was real. I just wanted to return it." The girl smiled, blinking, fast to hold back emotion. "The world needs more people like you." Keanu nodded gently. "Maybe the world needs more people like her." He stepped back into the night. He didn't book another hotel. Instead, he walked to a simple guest inn. A few blocks away, one that didn't care about status or clothing. He rented a small room, no view, no luxury. Just a bed, a lamp, and silence, and that was enough. But while Keanu slept peacefully, the internet did not. By sunrise, the hotel incident had gone viral. Hashtags trended. Keanu gives away sweet, and real kindness still exists. Comments flooded in, praise, reflection, even apologies. People who had once mocked now shared stories of their own regrets. The young couple from the hotel recorded a video. They confessed how they'd laughed at a man they thought was poor, and how they were forever changed by what he did next. Their video, raw and honest, reached millions. By morning, reporters were calling the hotel. Journalists showed up at the lobby, but the manager kept his word and protected Keanu's privacy. He didn't want credit, he told them. He just wanted to remind us what kindness looks like. Nirmala, now fully rested and wearing a new uniform the hotel gifted her, stood quietly at the lobby door as cameras flashed. She didn't speak much, just held the keycard close and said, "I didn't do anything special. I just gave water to a man who looked tired." But her voice carried across the world. Later that day, Keanu returned to the hotel through the back entrance, unnoticed. He met with the manager quietly, away from reporters, and said, "Please don't let this become about me." "It already has," the manager admitted, "but we're trying." "Then do something," Keanu said. "Create a fund for staff members like Nirmala, for workers who go unseen. People need more than thank yous." "We will," the manager promised. As Keanu walked back out, a young boy ran up to him. He was maybe 7 or 8, holding his mother's hand. "Are you really Keanu Reeves?" he asked. Keanu smiled and knelt down. "Yes," the boy said softly. "My mom cried when she saw what you did for that hotel lady. I want to be like you when I grow up." Keanu placed a hand on the boy's shoulder and said, "Be kind, even when no one is watching. That's all." As he stood, the mother whispered, "Thank you for reminding us." Keanu just nodded and walked away. That evening, he stood on stage at the children's charity event, the reason he came to the city. He didn't mention the hotel. He didn't talk about himself. Instead, he shared stories of children who had no homes, no food, no dreams. His voice was steady, his words simple. "When we give," he said, "we don't lose anything. We grow. We become stronger. And sometimes, one small act can ripple out into something far greater." People clapped. Some cried. But Keanu, he just smiled and stepped off the stage. That night, a letter was slipped under his door at the guest inn. It was handwritten, with shaky letters. It read, "Dear Mr. Reeves, you didn't just give me a sweet. You gave me dignity. I will never forget you." Nirmala, he held the note in his hands for a long time, then folded it gently, placed it in his bag, and looked out the window at the quiet city. His heart was full. The ripple effect. 3 days had passed since Keanu Reeves quietly gave away his hotel suite. 3 days, and the world had already changed in ways he never expected. News outlets ran stories about the incident. Talk shows discussed his humility. Social media was flooded with clips of the moment, reactions and reflections. But Keanu, he stayed silent. He did not post about it. He didn't give interviews. He simply returned home to his normal routine, reading scripts, walking his dog, riding the subway in a baseball cap like any other man. But even from afar, the ripple he created was moving outward, touching lives he couldn't see. In the hotel, things had changed forever. Nirmala now walked through the halls with her head higher than before. Other staff members, once ignored by management, were now being noticed. New policies were announced, better staff meals, fairer shifts, and a bonus program for those who showed compassion and excellence. The manager even created a plaque, mounted on the staff wall, with Nirmala's name at the top. It read, "Kindness is never invisible." One afternoon, while she was folding fresh towels, a young intern approached her shyly and asked, "Can I work beside you today?" Nirmala smiled gently. "Of course. But why?" "Because I want to learn from you," the intern said. "Not just cleaning, I want to learn how to see people, the way you did." The moment touched her heart. But far beyond the hotel, something else had begun. A school principal in another city showed the video to his students. He told them, "This is what respect looks like. Not when someone is rich or famous, but when you treat someone right without knowing who they are." A group of kids decided to form a project called Sweet Kindness. Every week, they would do something kind for someone in their school. Janitors, cafeteria workers, drivers, teachers. And then, one morning, Keanu's team received a message. It was from a boy named Amir, who lived in a small town near the mountains. His voice trembled in the short video he sent. "Mr. Reeves," he said, "my family runs a small guest house. We're not rich, but my mom said we should always help others. Last night, a traveler came, tired and cold. I gave him my room and slept on the floor. I remembered what you did. I wanted to do the same. Thank you for teaching me without even knowing me." Keanu watched the message in silence. His eyes were wet by the end. He replied with a handwritten note, which he mailed the next day. "Dear Amir, you didn't just give someone a room, you gave them care, and that is more powerful than gold. Never stop being that kind boy. Your friend Keanu." Days passed. Then weeks. The noise from the media began to quiet down. New stories took over headlines, but the kindness remained. Like seeds buried under the surface, it began to grow silently, but not everyone celebrated it. In one corner of the city, the hotel receptionist, the same one who had dismissed Keanu that day, sat in his small apartment, staring at his phone. His name had gone viral too, not in praise, but in shame. Videos called him rude. Articles questioned his behavior. Strangers messaged him with insults. He felt cornered, angry, embarrassed. He called in sick to work. Then, for 2 days, he didn't answer his door. On the 3rd day, there was a knock. He opened it slowly, expecting another reporter. Instead, it was Nirmala. She stood holding a small brown bag. "You haven't come to work," she said gently. So I brought you lunch. He looked confused, ashamed. Why? She walked in and set the bag down. Because I know how it feels, when people only see one moment and forget the rest. He sat down heavily. I was awful to him. You made a mistake, she said. We all do. But what matters now is what you do next. He looked at her, eyes full of regret. How do I fix it? She smiled softly. You start by being better. Not louder. Just better. After she left, he opened the lunch bag and found a note inside. It read, "Kindness doesn't need a camera. It just needs a heart." He stared at it for a long time. That same week, he returned to the hotel, apologized to the team, and began volunteering on his off hours. He worked alongside housekeeping. He brought tea to guards. He opened doors for guests with a smile, not to erase his past, but to rewrite his future. Back. At his home, Keanu sat at his piano playing soft, unfinished melodies. His dog lay at his feet. A notebook rested nearby, filled with ideas, quotes, and tiny scribbles of memories. One of them said, "The loudest kindness is often the one that says nothing." He hadn't planned for any of this to happen. He never wanted the spotlight, but maybe that was why it mattered. He received another letter, this time from a woman in Canada. She wrote, "My son was cruel to a homeless man last week. I scolded him. Then I showed him your story." He cried. And the next morning he packed a sandwich and went out looking for that same man. He didn't find him, but he keeps packing. A sandwich every day, just in case. Keanu folded the letter and added it to his growing collection. Each one a reminder, each one a reason. A few days later, his team informed him of an award he was being offered. It was from a major humanitarian group. They wanted to honor him publicly. He declined it. "If you want to do something," he told them, "donate the award money to shelters and give the stage to people like Nirmala." And they did, at the award ceremony, the host said. "Keanu Reeves has kindly declined this spotlight. Instead, we honor the everyday heroes, the invisible givers." Nirmala was invited to speak. Her voice trembled as she said, "I was just doing my job, but Mr. Reeves showed me that even in silence you can change the world." The room stood and clapped. And in a quiet corner, watching on a private live stream, Keanu smiled. He didn't need applause. He just needed the world to believe that kindness still mattered. A hotel room becomes a movement. It was a quiet morning when Keanu Reeves woke up to a phone call from his assistant. Her voice was soft but excited. "Keanu, I know you don't want attention, but you should see this." He rubbed his eyes, sat up and asked, "What happened now?" She replied, "There's something trending. It's not your name this time, it's a phrase. People are calling it the Sweet Key Act." He frowned slightly, still half asleep. "The what?" "They're doing what you did. Ordinary people, students, families, even companies. They're giving up something valuable for someone else in need and sharing the story with just one message. I gave them my sweet key." Keanu was silent for a few seconds, then quietly said, "That's beautiful." He got up, opened the window and looked out over the city. The air smelled like fresh rain. The world, for a moment, felt softer. Meanwhile, across different corners of the globe, something was indeed happening. In a hospital waiting room in Istanbul, a woman gave up her private chair so a tired father could lie down beside his sick child. She placed a small paper note beside him. It read, "This is my sweet key. Rest well." In a busy school in the Philippines, a child gave his lunch to a new student who had forgotten to bring anything. He handed over a crumpled napkin with the words, "You're sitting in my suite today. Welcome." At an airport in Brazil, a businessman upgraded a stranger to first class and took the economy seat instead. When asked why, he simply said, "It felt right." Back in Los Angeles, Keanu sat in his small reading room. going through dozens of handwritten letters that had been forwarded to him. None were asking for favors. None wanted autographs. They just wanted to say thank you, and to share what they had done. Inspired by him, but done in their own way. His eyes stopped on a letter from a 13-year-old girl named Zara. Dear Keanu, I don't have a hotel suite, but I have a room. My neighbor sleeps in a car with her baby. Last night, I gave them my room and slept in the kitchen. I told her, this is my suite key. Thank you for teaching me how to care. His chest tightened. He folded the letter, gently, and placed it in a wooden box labeled Stories That Matter. He didn't post about it. He didn't tweet. He didn't even tell his friends. But that night, he donated anonymously to Zara's neighborhood, paying 6 months' rent for the mother and child. Some things, he believed, didn't need his name attached. Yet even with the spreading kindness, not all hearts were ready to understand. A popular celebrity on a talk show mocked the trend. Everyone's acting like giving away a hotel room makes you a saint. Next thing you know, people will be giving away their shoes and calling it the Reeves walk. The crowd laughed, but the next day, the same celebrity found a pair of warm shoes at her dressing room door. Attached was a note. No cameras. No credit. Just kindness. Walk in peace. The incident humbled her. She later went online without makeup and posted, I judged without knowing. I mocked something that heals. Thank you, whoever left those shoes. I'll never forget what it feels like to be seen without being shamed. Keanu, watching quietly from his home, didn't say a word, but his smile said everything. Across the world, something unusual happened next. A famous 5-star hotel chain announced a global campaign. Every month, they would gift one night in their best suite to a hard-working staff member, someone chosen by peers. The campaign was called the Reeves Key. Keanu refused to attend the launch. Instead, he sent a simple message. If you truly care, make it more than a campaign. Make it your culture. The hotel chain listened and kept their word. Meanwhile, Nirmala's story continued to grow. She was invited to speak at a community event for domestic workers. When she stood on the stage, she looked small and nervous. But when she spoke, her voice shook the room. I never asked for attention. I never wanted fame. All I did was give a glass of water to a tired man. And in return, he gave me respect. If we all did one kind thing for someone invisible, we'd be living in a different world. People stood. They clapped. Some wept. And in the back row, quietly hidden under a cap and jacket, Keanu watched it all with tears in his eyes. Later, when he tried to leave without being seen, Nirmala found him near the exit. You came, she whispered. He nodded. I had to. I don't know what to say. Just promise me one thing, he said softly. What? Never stop being the way you are. Quiet. Kind. Powerful. She smiled, eyes full of warmth. And you? Never stop walking into lobbies with tired eyes. They laughed gently. Outside the hall, a young woman approached him. Her name was Alina. She had once been homeless. Now, she worked with shelters across the city. Mr. Reeves, she said, would you mind visiting one of our shelters? No. Media. Just you. He agreed without hesitation. That night he sat beside people who had no homes, no warmth, but full hearts. He played chess with an old veteran. He told stories to 2 kids who didn't know who he was, but giggled at his silly voices. He helped carry crates of donated food. When he finally stood to leave, the veteran handed him a dog tag from his own neck. You gave away your suite, he said. I give you my strength. Keanu held the tag with both hands. He didn't speak. He just bowed. Before leaving, he wrote something on the wall of the shelter, above the kitchen. When we stop judging who deserves kindness, we become human again. And he signed it simply. K. The message on the wall, Keanu Reeves didn't return home right away. After his quiet visit to the shelter, he took a walk under the soft yellow streetlights. The city was quiet, the kind of quiet that only comes late at night when most people are asleep, and the world feels softer, almost honest. He passed small cafes closing for the night, couples holding hands, delivery boys resting on sidewalks. His heart was full, but heavy. Not with sadness, with something else. Something he couldn't name. Maybe it was the weight of how far a single moment of kindness had traveled. Or maybe it was the strange feeling of being known for something he never meant to make public. He didn't want to be praised. He didn't want awards or attention. He just wanted to remind the world of something simple, that kindness doesn't need permission. But now it was bigger than him. When he returned home the next morning, he found a box on his doorstep. No return address. Inside was a collection of hand-drawn pictures from children all around the world. Some had drawn him, giving the key to Nirmala. Others had drawn their own versions of kindness. A child helping another pick up books, a boy sharing his umbrella, a girl giving a scarf to a stranger. In the middle of the drawings was a simple message. We're giving away our sweet keys. 2. He sat down on the floor with the pictures spread around him. His dog lay beside him, tail thumping lightly. For a long time, Keanu just stared at those drawings and smiled. But even while kindness spread, so did misunderstanding. One morning, a luxury magazine ran a headline. Keanu Reeves, accidental prophet of the sweet key cult, they accused. Him of creating a trend that made people feel guilty for living well. They called it dangerous idealism. Too soft for the real world. It didn't hurt him, but it made him think. He didn't want kindness to become pressure, or shame, or a way to show off. He wanted it to be quiet, honest, simple. So he called a small press conference, just a few journalists. No red carpet, no fancy hotel ballroom, just a wooden stage in a local community hall, the same one where Nirmala had once spoken. Keanu stepped up to the microphone, wearing a plain black shirt and jeans. The room fell silent. He spoke slowly. I didn't plan any of this, he began. I didn't know people were watching. I gave away a hotel suite because I was treated with kindness when I didn't deserve it. And I wanted to return that feeling. He paused. This isn't a movement. This isn't a campaign. It's not a trend. It's just a reminder. His voice cracked slightly. We all have a sweet key. Maybe it's not a hotel room. Maybe it's your time, your smile, your sandwich, your attention. Whatever it is. Someone else needs it more than you do. So give it. He stepped back. No applause, no music. Just a room filled with quiet tears and thoughtful eyes. Afterward, he left through the side door and disappeared into the city once again. Later that evening, Keanu's assistant brought him a letter from a prisoner in Ohio. The man had watched the news from his tiny cell. The letter read, Mr. Reeves, I don't have much left in here. I made a lot of bad choices. But your story made me remember one thing. When I was a kid, my sister and I had to sleep in our car. A stranger gave us their motel room for the night. I never forgot it. And for the first time in years, I wrote a letter to that sister. I just wanted you to know, you gave me back my memory and a reason to write again. Keanu read it 3 times. Then, without telling anyone, he sent that prisoner a new set of notebooks, a fountain pen, and a message. Write everything. Your past, your change, your future. Every story matters. That same week, a filmmaker contacted Keanu's agent. He wanted to make a documentary, not about Keanu, but about the people affected by the sweet key ripple. The title would be Open Doors. Keanu agreed, only if he wasn't the focus. Instead, he helped the crew find real stories, the school kids who started lunchbox drives, the hotels that changed their employee policies, the drivers who gave rides for free on cold nights, the elderly woman who turned her guest room into a shelter once a week. The stories were everywhere now. But there was still one person Keanu hadn't seen since that day in the hotel lobby. Nirmala. She had quietly returned to her life. She still worked at the hotel, even after being offered a management role. She declined it. "I prefer the quiet work," she had said. One evening, Keanu returned to the hotel. No disguise this time. Just himself. He asked the front desk, "Is Nirmala working today?" The receptionist, a new one, lit up. "Yes, sir, she's just finishing her shift." A few minutes later, Nirmala appeared, holding a stack of folded towels. She stopped when she saw him. "You came back," she said softly. He smiled. "I owed you a thank you." "You already gave me more than enough." "Maybe, but I wanted to give you something else." He reached into his coat pocket and took out a simple, handmade book. On the cover was a soft drawing. It showed a woman giving a glass of water to a man. He handed it to her. "What is this?" she asked. "A children's story," he said. "Based on you. It's called The Glass That Changed the Night." Her hands trembled slightly as she held it. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything. Just keep doing what you do. The world needs more of it." Before he left, he turned to her and asked, "Can I show you something?" She nodded. He led her to the wall outside. The hotel, the one facing the street. A mural had been painted there without her knowing. It showed her, standing with a towel in one hand and a sandwich in the other, offering them to a tired traveler. Beside the mural were the words, "When no one sees you, kindness does." Nirmala touched her chest and whispered, "I was just doing my job." Keanu looked at her. And that changed the world. The door that never closed. Months passed quietly after the mural was painted. Keanu Reeves returned to his quiet life, filming, volunteering, walking his dog through familiar streets. He didn't speak of the hotel, or the mural, or the movement that had grown from that single moment in the lobby. But everywhere he went, he saw the signs. A young man on the subway, giving up his seat with a smile. A coffee shop offering free meals labeled, "Reserved with kindness." A librarian gently helping an old man read a letter from his grandson. It wasn't loud. It wasn't trending anymore. But it was living. Kindness had rooted itself into the world again, not as a show, not as a slogan, but as habit, as instinct, and, in small, unexpected places, people kept passing on their sweet keys. One morning, as Keanu entered a bookstore, the owner handed him a box without a word. Inside were hundreds of messages written on torn napkins, sticky notes, pieces of notebook paper. They had been collected by volunteers from around the world. Each one was a story, some were short. "I gave my umbrella to an old man." He smiled. I smiled. "Shared my last cookie with a crying stranger at the airport." Some were deep. "I hadn't spoken to my father in 7 years. I forgave him today. My sweet key was my pride. I stopped a fight by offering a hug. No one saw it. But it saved us both." And at the very bottom of the box, one final note said, "I was going to give up. But someone saw me, said I mattered. That was my sweet key. It brought me back." Keanu sat down in the back corner of the bookstore and read every single one. By the time he reached the last letter, it was dark outside. Rain tapped lightly on the glass. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He just breathed slowly, feeling the weight and wonder of it all. Then he stood up and made a decision. He walked straight to his team's office the next day and said, "I want to build something. Something real. Not a foundation with my name on it. Not another celebrity charity. Something quiet, like the people who made it possible." And so, the Open Door Initiative was born. It didn't ask for donations. It didn't run commercials. It simply connected people who had something to give, a ride, a room, a skill, with those who needed it. No questions, no conditions. Just trust. Within a year, thousands of people were helped. Strangers took strangers to doctor visits. Chefs cooked for families they didn't know. Builders repaired homes for single mothers. And at the heart of it, every act was traced back to that. One moment, a tired man in a hotel lobby quietly handed a glass of water by a woman who expected nothing in return. But even as the world kept moving, the heart of the story remained with Nirmala. She had grown quieter, not from fear or shyness, but from peace. From knowing that her simple action had echoed into places she would never see. She still worked at the hotel, still folded towels, still smiled at every guest, whether rich or tired, until one morning she arrived to find her locker empty and a letter waiting inside. It wasn't a termination letter. It was a promotion, not to manager, not to director, but to something new. The hotel had created a role just for her, ambassador of care. Her job wasn't to clean anymore. It was to train others on how to see people, not just serve them. She would teach empathy, patience, and quiet strength. Her uniform changed, her pay doubled. But she remained the same. When asked how she felt, she simply said, "I will never stop carrying towels. But now I will carry stories too." And carry them she did. She spoke at schools, hospitals, airports. Not as a celebrity, not as a symbol, but as herself. Just Nirmala. One afternoon she visited a shelter where children were painting messages on walls. One boy, shy and quiet, handed her a paintbrush and said, "Can you write something for us?" She smiled, dipped the brush in blue and wrote, "Kindness doesn't knock, it walks in." And next to it, she painted a tiny silver key. Back in Los Angeles, Keanu Reeves sat in a recording studio, finishing voice work for an animated film. As the crew packed up, one assistant walked over nervously. "Mr. Reeves," she said, "I'm sorry to bother you, but that story you lived, the one with the hotel and the suite key, it changed my life. I gave up my job in advertising. I'm studying to become a social worker now." Keanu looked at her kindly. "That wasn't my story," he said. "It was hers." "Whose?" He smiled. "The one who gave me water when no one else did." The assistant's eyes shimmered. "Thank you," she whispered. Keanu simply nodded and walked out into the soft evening light. As he reached his car, he found a note tucked under the wiper. It was folded carefully, written in soft pencil. He opened it slowly. "Dear Keanu, I was the bellboy, the one who laughed. I quit the job last month. Now I volunteer at a home for the elderly. Every time I give someone a blanket, I remember how you gave away a sweet. You helped me find the version of myself I lost. Thank you. I hope one day I get to hold the door open for you." Keanu held the note against his chest for a second, eyes closed. He didn't need the world to know. He just needed to keep going. And so, he did. And somewhere, far away, a stranger handed someone a cup of tea. Someone else offered their seat to a tired mother and a child. Without fully understanding why, slipped a hand into a lonely one and whispered, "You can sit next to me." Because kindness had opened a door, and that door never closed again.